Hey girls! Based on the previous video, I saw that many of you are afraid to take an e-file into your hands. Are you scared of overfiling, filing through the nail plate, or just ruining your hands to the point of SOS? Maybe you've already experimented on yourself, but the situation only got worse. Believe me, I understand your fears and doubts like no one else. That's why today we'll go over the most common mistakes and, most importantly, how to avoid them, especially at the beginning when there's not much practice yet. The main thing is to learn from them and move forward. You will learn how to correctly select and use bits, how to work near the cuticle without risk of damage, and get useful tips from my many years of experience. I will show a few of the most effective manicure techniques, both with an e-file and manual tools, wet and dry methods. I will teach you to independently control the process and see your mistakes before they become a problem. All these mistakes were once part of my practice too, so I know exactly how to avoid them. And after watching this video, you can confidently take on e-file manicures armed with my tips and life hacks. So let's start with removing the old nail coating. To successfully remove the old material, we need the right bit. There are many different diameters, shapes and markings for removal bits, but among this mountain of options, we only need 2 bits because others simply won't be suitable. The key characteristics of the bits we need are a tapered tip, high-quality working surface, and appropriate color coding. See these colored stripes on the bits? That's what we need to pay attention to. The red bit is soft, the blue is medium, and the green is hard. At this stage, red and blue bits are suitable for us. For example, here's a conical bit with blue marking. It's good, of course, but since we are just beginners, its narrow tip will dig into the coating and damage the nail plate. So this bit will come in handy when you have more experience and confidence working with the tool. Bits with a cut-off tip definitely won't work for us, so we'll put them aside right away. The same goes for bits with black markings. Their teeth are too large, so they remove too much material. Even with careful work, we'll remove them as well. Now we have 3 friends left: green, blue, and red. The difference between them lies in the size of the teeth and the material. The green bit is carbide, while the white one is ceramic. No need to get too hung up on choosing between them, because both work great. The only difference is the service life. Ceramic bits last longer. So we remove the coating, the rotation of the bit is at maximum, forward mode, and we start from the right corner. It's important not to press too hard on the bit. We remove the material evenly without rushing. Hold the e-file like a regular pen when you write. A little secret: rest your pinky on the client's hand or your own finger. This will be your support point where you can transfer the weight of the e-file. When you've removed the coating from the entire nail, flip the bit over and carefully remove the remnants near the cuticle. I understand that working near the skin can be a bit scary, so there's a little hack. You can leave the areas near the sidewalls and then carefully finish removing with a file. There's usually not a lot of material there. We remove the material so that a thin layer of base remains on the nail. And now I'll show you how to understand that the coating has been removed enough and you are already filing the nail itself. If when removing you see this kind of island, then we stop in this place. We no longer pass the bit there. Such islands signal to us that the material has been removed down to the nail, and further on the plate itself will be filed. When removing the coating, do not press on the bit under any circumstances, because then it will dig into the coating and create a pit in the nail. We need a smooth nail as much as possible. Therefore, we transfer all the weight to the pinky, which we rest on the hand from which we remove the coating. We just lightly run the bit over the nail without undue pressure. The more even the surface we have after removal, the more evenly the next coating will lie and the nail will be smooth. In removal, it's very important to follow the sequence. That is, we remove with the bit either from left to right or from right to left, making each new pass with a slight overlap on the previous one. Don't jump from place to place. You won't get an even surface that way. After removing the coating, we clean off the dust and be sure to finish with a 180 grit file over those areas that couldn't be processed with the e-file. With the flat of the file, we make long strokes in one direction to smooth out all the streaks left by the e-file. At the same time, we smooth the surface of the nail and lift the scales from the grown out part. It's like ironing fabric, without sharp movements, calmly and confidently. Next, with the edge of the file, using the same long movements, we remove the coating from the area of the sidewalls and cuticle. If you notice any lifting, even the slightest, it must be completely removed. From the other side, we place the file parallel to the nail and just as carefully remove the coating from the right side. To check if the removal is even, you can look at the nail's edge. If you see a smooth and uniform arch in thickness, you're doing great. Everything is done perfectly. Next, we need to open the cuticle pocket, and for this we will need a hand tool, a wooden and metal stick and a pusher. We start with the sidewalls. Very gently, smoothly, without strong pressure, we push back the cuticle, opening the pocket. This is necessary so that later the e-file can work freely without getting stuck and so that we can cut everything evenly. By the way, the sidewalls are the most problematic area. If you poorly work the pocket there, the e-file will dig into the nail plate and make an overfile. I recently read a comment under a video where a lady complained that after opening the pocket, the nails grew out in waves. It's all because of excessive pressure on the lunula area. It's the soft root part of the nail. In this zone, we only work with the skin, we don't press on the nail itself, so be careful. After opening the pocket, we check ourselves with this movement. We run the pusher or stick under the cuticle. If the stick stumbled, it means that the pocket in this zone is still not fully worked. And if it passes smoothly everywhere and does not stop anywhere, then everything is okay and we can move on. Personally, I prefer working with the metal stick. It doesn't deform during work like the wooden one. Plus, its beveled tip allows for more precise pocket opening. Especially on nails where there are adhesions, this is the best option. Now we do the shape filing and level the length. Since the nails in our case are short, we don't have so many shape options. It's either an oval or something similar to a soft square. So on one hand we will make an oval shape and on the other we will strengthen the nails with gel and make a soft square. A point that beginners very often forget is the growth points. This is the area where the nail grows into the body. You should never file them down or try to narrow them because it provokes onycholysis. And the growth points in this case are shifted upward. Therefore, in this zone, we do not lift the file upward but make smooth semi-oval movements, smoothing only the free edge of the nail. This way, we gradually give the nails the desired shape. But how do you understand what length the nail should be? It's very simple. For all the fingers to look harmonious, there are little tricks with length. Index and ring fingers should be the same length, middle finger should be 2 millimeters longer, pinky should be 2 millimeters shorter than the ring finger, and the thumb should be like the middle finger or slightly longer, by 1 to 2 millimeters. When filing the sides, be sure to pull back the sidewalls to see how the nail is being filed and not to overfile our sensitive growth zone. To file an oval evenly and nicely, we have to visually determine the center of the finger phalanx and draw a parallel that will pass through the nail and then file the nail in turn to get an oval shape. This way it will be easier for you to navigate where the center is and the nails will be even. Because there are cases when it turns out that you look at the nails and there they go every which way. So it's important to first determine the center and then file. Don't forget to constantly remove dust because it can create the illusion that something is underfiled or not clean. So the rule is simple. First remove the dust and then decide whether you need to file more in this place or not. So we've come to the diamond bits. Here the principle of selecting a bit is similar to that of removal bits. There are also a lot of them, and if you try to learn all of them, your head can spin. So we choose only the ones we need. Which bits definitely won't work for us? First, those that don't have a nose. The working part of the bit is cut off. We simply won't be able to clean anything with it because it won't fit under the cuticle. Teardrop-shaped bits are also not our option. Although they have a narrow nose, it's still not enough to process our subcuticular space. And we are left with bits that are called flame or candle. They also have different markings. Yellow is the softest, but personally I don't see much point in it because it polishes more than cleans. Red and blue, these beauties are just what we need. We don't even take the green one because the grit there is very hard and will just tear the skin. These bits that you see will be perfect for working with pterygium. The diameter of the bit should be 0.21 or 0.23. Smaller bits at high speed will just dig into the nail plate, and with larger ones it will be difficult to get under the cuticle and clean something from there. Here you see the difference in coating between the red and blue bits. So when and which one to take, it all depends on the skin type. If the cuticle is soft and thin, we take the red one, but for rougher skin, the blue one will be better. Always follow the principle. The more delicate the skin, the softer the bit coating should be. Now let's talk about the rotation speed and direction. I know this question confuses many people, and I myself couldn't remember it before. So I'll show you visually. On forward, when rotating forward, and we work on the left side of the nail, and on reverse, when rotating backward, on the right side. The bit should always move against resistance. What speed should be? Keep within 10 to 15,000 RPM. And again, look at the skin type. Softer skin, lower RPM. Also, the speed depends on your Efile. If you have a budget option, the real RPM may not match what the manufacturer claims. So on such devices, you can crank up the RPM a little. If it's a professional segment Efile, then stick to the parameters I mentioned earlier. Now let's figure out where the working part of the bit is. Conventionally, the bit can be divided into three parts: the nose, the side part, cheek, and the base, belly. So the working part is the cheek. It is with it that we clean out all the pockets, remove the pterygium, and turn out the cuticle if planning an Efile cut. We rarely use the nose of the bit, in special cases when we need to get to the skin under the cuticle. But in general, the whole process, the tip of the bit is in the air and definitely should not rest on the nail plate, because that's how you will make overfilings. We only use the bit's belly when cleaning the sidewalls. It is important to hold the bit correctly. The first mistake of beginners is the wrong angle of the bit. Look, the bit should lie with its cheek on the nail plate at a 45-degree angle. In no case do we put the bit on its nose. Do not rest it on the nail plate because it is guaranteed to cause an overfiling. The bit should almost always move diagonally relative to the skin. Our working part of the bit should press against the skin for good results. When we get to the sinus, here we need special attention. The sinus has its own special anatomical shape and the bit has to kind of dance along it. Every 2 movements we change the angle of the bit, adjusting to the shape of the cuticle. If you lead the bit straight without the diagonal, then in the sinus area you can cut the nail plate and make an overfiling. How to understand if this happened? Touch this spot with a stick, it will feel hard, and then you definitely can't file there anymore. So let's get down to the practice of dry processing with a bit. My bit rotation is 12,000 forward position. I put the bit diagonally and start cleaning the subcuticular space. If possible, pull back the sidewall so you can see deeper under the cuticle and know where else you need to file. Also, don't forget about resting on your pinky. It should always be there at every stage and in any situation. Clean everything we see, always look where the bit touches the nail. It's like driving. As long as you look at the road and pay attention to the signs, everything will be fine and no fines. After cleaning the sinuses, we pull back the sidewall and scrape off everything that has grown there. Here our belly of the bit comes into play. We don't cut anything with scissors or nippers because from such aggressive treatment, the sidewalls grow even more. Don't be fooled by this licked clean look on social media. Cuticles can be very different and not everyone can be brought to a glossy state. Remember that the body has a protective function. The more you cut, the more will grow. Therefore, in everything you need to know the measure. We switch to reverse and again lead the bit diagonally, only now to the right side. We move in small steps without haste, but also without holding the bit too long in one place. When we approach the sinus, every few movements we change the angle of the bit so that its working part always goes parallel to the skin. After processing, remove dust and look under the cuticle if it's clean and if we need to work on anything more. Better to do it slowly and accurately than quickly and poorly. Now let's talk about wet Efile technique. I'm currently working with a fruit acid-based remover. These products come in different types, both alkaline and urea-based, but there's an important point. They can't be used if there are scratches or wounds on the skin. They might get bigger due to the product's active components. Moreover, it needs to be properly neutralized with water or wash your hands so that it does not provoke lifting. But there is a special keratolytic that can be used in any case, and I will definitely show it to you. After which we wipe the remover with a dry napkin and begin working. The downside of this technique is that the bit will likely get clogged very quickly and stop working properly. Therefore, for this technique, it's better to have a special safe bit without grit. It looks like this. It has no grit, so it won't get clogged. And finally, the third technique, working with a manual tool. This is where the special keratolytic I mentioned will come in handy. This is a real must-have for masters and beginners. It only works with keratinized skin and does not affect young and delicate skin. Therefore, it can be safely used even if there are cracks or wounds. We apply it to the cuticle and wait 1 minute for it to take effect. After wiping the skin with a dry napkin, we take a scraper. This is such a small ring that allows you to scrape off the pterygium. Under my last video, a discussion broke out that the scraper can only be used on dry skin, but in fact, this is the same as arguing about how to properly cut the cuticle, dry or wet. The main rule is that the scraper should lie on the nail. Important! Do not press hard on the root zone. The keratolytic has already done its job and the pterygium should easily come off. If you press hard, the nail may start to grow in waves and we definitely don't want that. Do not forget to thoroughly work out the sinus zones because the pterygium accumulates the most there. And if it is not scraped off, then lifting will occur. So keep an eye on this. This technique will be great for those who do not want to work with an Efile at all or simply do not like this feeling. And thanks to this keratolytic, everything will be safe. By the way, it does not need to be neutralized with water. It will be enough just to degrease the nails well. But what to do if you only have such a wooden stick from hand tools? Don't worry, you can handle it with it too. Since the remover has already softened the skin, the pterygium easily succumbs even to such a simple tool and everything is neatly scraped off. We put the stick under the cuticle, but not like this, but with the cut towards the nail plate, so it will be more effective. And we begin to scrape off that ill-fated pterygium, and as you can see, it also works well. The only downside of the stick is that it absorbs the moisture of the keratolytic and also becomes softer. So I advise using one stick for one hand. For an experienced specialist, this is of course not the best option. But what to do when you really want a nice manicure, but there are no special tools? You need to be able to improvise with what is at hand. We scraped it off, remove it with a brush and look. As you can see, even with a stick, you can make a pretty good result. All these techniques have a right to exist and they all work well if you understand the principle of their actions. Now let's move on to cutting. And there's one very common mistake: incorrect blade position. They shouldn't tilt against the skin or nail plate. We hold the scissors at exactly 90 degrees relative to the cuticle. We bring the lower blade under the cuticle and look from above, cut in small steps. Do not rush. Don't try to cut too much at once. This is incorrect because in just a few days you'll see dry cuticle again. We need to cut only what's transparent. Because if you cut too much, you'll notice situations like this. For demonstration, I deliberately inserted the scissors a bit deeper and already made a cut which is very sensitive and will hurt for several more days until it heals. When cutting wet, the principle is the same, but after keratolytic, the boundary between hardened and live skin is more visible. Here's what's transparent. We cut and we don't go further. Another reason why the cuticle becomes shaggy or hangnails appear is dull blades. Therefore, take your tools for sharpening in a timely manner. If after cutting you see such small hangnails that you're tempted to cut more, don't give in to this temptation. Due to lack of experience, you can only harm. Instead of one hangnail, you risk getting many new ones. A polisher, silicon carbide grinders, will handle this perfectly. These little ones have enough abrasiveness to tame any dryness and deal with all the little things that bother us. So we take brown or green, switch the E-file to reverse mode, set the speed to 7 to 9000 and carefully polish problem areas. Look how excellently the polisher handles the task and additionally gives the skin shine. Well, girls, we have done a lot of work. Now we can admire our result. Looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Now we move on to the nail coating and we will do our nails on the right hand. Girls often ask how to strengthen such short nails. I'll quickly show you. First, we choose a base. I have a plastic base light from Nail Apex, and how to properly select a base for the nail plate type. There are separate videos about this on the channel. I recommend watching them. So, to strengthen our shorties, we need to do it in 2 stages. The first layer of gel is applied to the free edge and dried. The second layer is our classic. We work as in normal nail strengthening, that is, we do standard alignment with a hard material and also dry it. Here, the first layer of coating plays a very important role. It is this layer that strengthens the free edge of the nail and gives it the necessary thickness so that the nail does not bend or break during wear. After the gel is completely dry, you need to remove the sticky layer. If necessary, you can slightly adjust the shape of the nail. Then we cover it with a top coat or colored coating. If this video was useful for you and you feel that now you are more confidently taking an E-file in your hands, my mission is accomplished. Hit like. I will be glad if you share your successes in the comments, and if you have any questions left, feel free to ask. Also, subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell so you don't miss anything. Well, I'm saying goodbye to you for a long time. Bye bye, beauties.